Bitcoin, you could think of it as a city in cyberspace, 256 blocks across, 256 blocks long, 256 blocks high. There'll never be more than 21 million. 276 blocks is the right number. The cube root of 21 million is about 276. So if you imagine a city in cyberspace, 276 blocks on a cube, that is the immutable supply of that asset, and that's all there's ever going to be for 1,000 years, maybe for 10,000 years. Yeah. And so one day, all 8 billion people in the world want to live there.
Michael Saylor is a billionaire business executive, Bitcoin enthusiast, and the executive chairman of MicroStrategy, a Virginia-based business intelligence and mobile software company. Since 2020, when he began incorporating Bitcoin into his personal portfolio and his software company, Saylor has been a dedicated advocate, educating millions worldwide about the distinct advantages of Bitcoin over other asset classes. His background in aeronautics, science, and technology provides him with a deep understanding of Bitcoin, allowing him to succinctly explain why nothing compares to the leading crypto asset. One of Saylor's best analogies about Bitcoin is that it is a building in cyberspace, not just any building, but the foundation of a new financial system, one that marks the transition from the physical world to the digital. This building, which Saylor says will someday encapsulate a large portion of the global financial system and economy, has a lot of features that make it unique and quite unlike anything the world has ever seen. To begin with, it has a permanent supply cap of 21 million. This assures investors that the supply will never get inflated and out of control, the same issue destroying the US dollar and every other fiat currency today. While other assets are getting constantly debased, Bitcoin will always be able to maintain its integrity. Another advantage of Bitcoin over other asset classes is that it is not constrained by the many limitations of other asset classes. In Saylor's words, it is an immutable, immortal, scarce, desirable property that can be accessed with nothing more than a mobile phone from every corner of the world. We will bring you clips from Saylor's recent interview with Financial Intelligence. Please watch the video to the end so you don't miss any of Saylor's highly insightful analogies and analysis. Also, ensure you give this video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. Thanks, and enjoy the video.
I think the best way to think about money is there are three parts of money. There's a medium of exchange, a unit of account, and a store of value. Currencies are legal tender defined by a nation state. So the dollar is a currency in the US, and the peso is a currency in Argentina, and the real is a currency in Brazil. Currencies make good mediums of exchanges, and they will always be good mediums of exchanges wherever there's an effective government. Units of account tend to be the strongest currencies that people look to and coordinate with. So the US dollar is a unit of account in Argentina, even though the medium of exchange is the peso. So money trifurcates. Store of value is that aspect of money that is got the longest half-life. So if you think about what people use as store of value, they don't use the peso in Argentina. They might use the dollar over 10 years. But over 100 years, say in Western Europe or the US, people would use property like real estate, or they would use trophy assets like a soccer team or a football club, or they would use art, or they would use equity, like they would own Apple stock, or they would use the S&P index. They would own a diversified portfolio. So money itself trifurcates. There's 150 or 120 currencies that are mediums of exchange. There's maybe half a dozen units of account that really people care about. Bitcoin is the strongest store of value in the 21st century. And when I look at strength, I consider the half-life of the money. And what I mean is half-life is, how long will your economic energy or your capital last? And if you take money, $1 million, and you buy pesos with it, and they're running a 40% inflation rate, the half-life of the money is 18 months. you'll lose half of the money in 18 months and then the next half of the money in 3 years. And so you'll be down to, 12% of your money in 4.5 years. The half-life of money of your economic energy in the dollar is about 10 years, because there's about a 7% monetary expansion rate. If you had the $1 million, it would be worth $500,000 in 10 years. If you actually look at Miami Beach real estate, an acre of land in Miami Beach was worth $10,000 in 1930. It's worth $10 million today. That means that it's 1,000 times as expensive. If you do the math quickly, that means that the monetary inflation rate is 7.5%. And that means the half-life of your capital in the US dollar for the last 100 years is 10 years. Every 10 years you get cut in half. Doesn't sound that bad, but over 100 years, that means your 0.1% of your money is left. So dollar is isn't really a good store of value. What about gold? Gold's half-life is 30 years. Every 30 years, you double the gold supply under the best case. What about property? Well, then it's a function of, can you pay the tax? If you can buy land and you can afford the tax, actually, it'll keep going up, in value. It'll track that money supply. The value of Bitcoin is Bitcoin is the same thing as beachfront property in South Beach. It's like, there's only 96 blocks. No government can make more than that amount of beachfront. And that's why it goes up by a factor of 1,000.
During his recent interviews, Saylor has been making an effort to classify Bitcoin as a digital property rather than a currency. According to the billionaire business executive, referring to Bitcoin as currency or digital currency is an unfortunate historical artifact. Saylor uses this analogy to counter arguments that Bitcoin is not used for payments. He argues that the compelling use case for this technology is capital preservation. Just like you wouldn't tear a part of your art piece to buy coffee or sell off a portion of your real estate property to make payments, Saylor believes the same argument should not be used for Bitcoin. In a CNBC interview from March, the billionaire business executive said, "Medium of exchange is worth only $1 trillion. Store of value is worth $100 trillion. Medium of exchange is a distraction. Bitcoin is a medium of exchange, competing with gold." Let's get back to Saylor's interview.
My first advice is don't invest your money, invest your time. Spend 100 hours. First spend 10 hours. Read the Bitcoin standard. Go take a course. Go look at some of the videos. Start to study it. And try to get to 100 hours. Everybody in the world works 100 hours every 2 or 3 weeks, their entire life to make money. If you're going to work 40,000 hours in the course of your life to make money, you might as well work 100 hours to keep it, right? So make the investment. Then I would say, once you start to study it, you'll realize that it's backed by 15 gigawatts of electricity. That's 15 nuclear reactors. That's a lot of electricity. That's all the electricity that runs the U.S. Navy. Imagine all the power in the U.S. Navy. And then you'll see it's backed by 600 exahash. That's all the computer power that Amazon, Microsoft, and Google can muster. Maybe you don't know how many data centers Microsoft or Google or Apple have, but you know that they're very valuable companies. And if I show you a network which is more powerful than them, you would think, okay, that's very tangible. You start to study all the companies that have backed it, Block and Fidelity and Coinbase and MicroStrategy and BlackRock, And once you start to see all of these organizations that are supporting it, you realize that there's a network of hundreds of millions of people, thousands of corporations, gigawatts of electricity, tens of billions of dollars of computing data centers, and hundreds of billions of dollars have been invested in this network. And everybody has one thing in common. They believe in the idea of digital money and digital capital. The world's got $900 trillion of capital, of wealth in it. And most of that wealth, it's stored there for when you need it in the future. So if I give you a lot of money, you've got to decide to invest it in the stock market, in the real estate market, or buy debt, or put it in a bank. They all have risk. Bitcoin represents a bank in cyberspace run by incorruptible software. It's for people that don't want to be their own hedge fund. They don't. Why should you have to gamble on a stock to not lose your money? Why should you have to trust a bank? Maybe you trust your bank, but what about the bank in Lebanon that stole everybody's money and froze it and then devalued it? What bank are you supposed to trust in a war zone? What bank do you trust when the currency's collapsing, right? So the world needs a bank it can trust. It needs a property that is beyond the reach of a government, a corporation, an individual. Bitcoin represents that bank in cyberspace that offers property rights to 8 billion people. You don't know it yet, but then again, you use an iPhone. Why does it work? You know, where does the music come from? Where do the videos on YouTube come from? Right? The world is going through a digital transformation. And I guess I would say this. It used to be only kings could listen to Beethoven. And then pretty soon you could listen to Beethoven on a phonograph record, and it got cheaper. And then pretty soon you could download an app to your phone for free and listen to Beethoven, and it got really cheap. Digital transformation of music, digital transformation of education, digital transformation of books, digital transformation of storefronts.
So while you're
They
saying
changed the world. What I'm saying is this is the digital transformation of money, of capital, of property. Right? If you want to give music to 1 billion people, you need digital music. If you want to give wealth to 1 billion people, you need digital capital. You're not going to give money and property rights. You're not going to give economic security to everybody on earth without the digital form of capital.
Over the next years and decades, Saylor expects the economic activities and gains in cities around the world to begin bleeding into cyberspace. Despite being around for only 14 short years, Bitcoin has already established itself as the world's leading digital asset and the epicenter of economic activities in cyberspace. So, it is expected that it would get a giant share of all economic activities and investments that bleed into cyberspace. Saylor is advocating for a shift in the perception of how people view Bitcoin, less as a currency and more as a billion-dollar building in cyberspace. Saylor believes that Bitcoin's true value lies in its ability to preserve wealth over centuries, just like you would find with a valuable piece of real estate or an expensive artwork. According to Saylor, presenting Bitcoin as a digital property aligns more accurately with its function as a store of value rather than a medium of exchange. In addition, while the Bitcoin as a currency argument makes governments and institutions wary, Saylor believes a shift in perspective will make them more readily inclined to embrace the leading cryptocurrency. The shift will also stop critics who repeatedly argue that Bitcoin should be used to purchase a cup of coffee. Do you agree with Saylor's arguments about Bitcoin's status as a digital property? Please share your thoughts as well as your comments on his discussion with Peter in the comments section below. Also, ensure you like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on post notifications for more videos like this. Thanks for watching.